My name is Tim Carter. I pastor at Landmark Missionary Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Arkansas. This is the apologetic and outreach ministry of Landmark Missionary Baptist Church, and we use the historical holistic hermeneutics. It was developed by Dr. John Penn over approximately 40-year span of time, and the topic of apologetics is about defending Christianity. So I've had a lot of unusual feedback, and it's occurred to me personally and to a few of our colleagues collectively that the young or old earth argument is now, if you say young earth, you agree with the Bible, and if you say old earth, you agree with science. And if you say young earth, you disagree with science. And if you say old earth, you agree with science. There's just a problem with that. First of all, I personally, and I know we have people, scientists, among our colleagues, Dr. Joseph Looney II, he's an industrial engineer, so he has more than adequate education in that. However, for most of us, I can't disagree with science about much of anything. When my doctor came in one day and he said in 1985, I believe it was, that I had some type of malignant tumor, and he did say that, and he said it had metastasized, and it had gone undetected for months, and it had. I didn't really say, hold up, I don't agree with that. My lab results say this, because I didn't know how to do lab results. I didn't tell him my scan said this, because I don't know radiology. And then when the surgery was performed, I didn't awake and then evaluate the surgical procedure and say, now my process for incision. So when I say I don't have the education, disagree, for example, whatever the dating process is that science is performing, it's based on radiometric. Now, I don't know how to do that. Now, it doesn't mean that anything science says I agree with. It's just that most of it, I don't have any choice. When I cross a bridge, I don't stop and say, according to my calculation of the angles and whatever the measures are involved in a bridge. No, I usually am across the bridge and looking to see the sign that tells me how many miles more before I arrive at my destination. So when science says something about dating of the earth, I have really no interest at all in it. It's when atheism takes scientific data, or atheists take that and then say, well, now this proves the Bible's not true. Well, the divine ratio proves that thousands of years ago, knowledge of billions of years was already there. Now, I have no interest if I were in a debate, that is an audience, while a debate took place and someone was defending 6,000 years as their position on the earth's age, and an atheist was saying billions to support atheism. First, billions doesn't support atheism. That's quite an amusing assertion, that somehow they can take a position of billions and that proves atheism, and then a young earther can say, well, I take the position of thousands, that proves Christianity. I don't know, nowhere in the Bible is that age a proof of Christianity, but for the fact that we know the Bible teaches us about when the earth came to be thousands of years ago. It didn't tell us how old it was in the specifics. Neither does the Bible tell us how old Adam is. However, we know he only came into existence within 12 hours. So, since that's obvious to everyone, what would I do if I were in a room and someone was a young earther defending Christianity based on thousands of years, which I wouldn't do that, but if they did do that, what would I do? Well, I would help them demonstrate to the atheist that within a 6,000 year period of time, billions of years of time can transpire, reminding the atheist that the earth rotates, orbits, and travels according to his field of science and the observations his technology has made and the feedback that he's gathered and tabulated. That's why I couldn't debate Bill Nye. He doesn't have knowledge of these things. He just asserts evolution as an atheist and has no factual basis for it. So he's really not even qualified, whoever Bill Nye, the science guy, thinks he is. But what would I do if someone were in a room who was a Christian who accepted billions of years based on science? I would challenge the Christian to show me where in the Bible did they find that. And of course the divine ratio can show that. So as far as apologetics for KOINE.org is concerned, arguing between a Christian who says thousands and a Christian who says billions, when neither of them can demonstrate the correlation between either one of them, is, like most arguments, something's missing, and the two bantering each side, opposing forces, don't have the cognition to engage the text, nor do they have the desire or the want to evaluate, study, and learn. So, but as far as apologetics that defend Christianity, no argument from atheists can demonstrate that the Bible does not have knowledge of billions of years, thousands of years before our technology. No knowledge in science can demonstrate that in only thousands of years, billions of years of time could transpire. For the science itself, just a small knowledge, a limited knowledge I have of mathematics, demonstrates that irrefutably. So whatever people are doing to each other, that is, regrettably, Christians who might be arguing old or arguing young earth, I haven't really seen a lot of information if you're arguing old earth, where are the billions in the Bible? Well, unless you know the divine ratio, unless you know Psalm 90, where Moses, the author of Genesis, wrote about 1,000 years is as yesterday, and then unless you know Peter, the letter of Peter, which he only used the Old Testament, that was his scriptures, and he knew that psalm, that lesson, and he was teaching that 1,000 years is as a day and a day is 1,000 years to the Lord. Unless you use that, I really don't know where in the Bible someone who believes in old earth would find billions of years in the Bible, except by the ratio. And if you're saying young only, you have to omit that. But whatever's going on between a young and an old earth or Christian, I don't participate in that because I don't understand what they're saying. And regrettably, most often whenever I study what they're saying, I notice neither of them are aware of their errors of omission. And just as the textbook that reflects the hermeneutics of Dr. John Penn says, errors of omission, it says that we are often unaware of those, and it finds people wanting to rewrite the text. So if you're wanting to argue against a Christian because you take a young earth position, I don't know what, I don't know what that is. I have no idea. That's not a defense of Christianity. And if you want to argue against someone who advocates thousands of years because you believe old or billions of years, but without Bible knowledge, which would require the divine ratio, and then, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why Christians are destroying each other. That's probably because that's not true. So I've come to conclude, just as a testimony about my own involvement in apologetics. I'm a professional apologist. I have resources and an unsurpassed hermeneutics that I was taught by someone who developed it over years and years and collaborated with people from all types of fields, from law degree professionals to engineering professionals to language professionals. So when Dr. John Penn constructed and developed and built his hermeneutic, that was the foundation upon which the apologetics of KOINE.org came. So apologetics is the fruit, hermeneutics is the root. So if you have a flawed hermeneutics, but really it's not flawed hermeneutics when it comes to people abusing each other in this, that's a character problem. So yes, I would help someone who was advocating young earth in a debate against atheism and evolution, yes, I would help someone who was an advocate of old earth who was defending Christianity against atheists and evolutionists. Because what's at stake is the truth of the Bible and Christianity, not sides within Christianity. I don't understand that. So I was accused of not picking sides, and I understand why, because neither side had enough intelligence to not accuse, and then they didn't have the character to not accuse. And the accuser of the brethren is the devil, so he had more influence over people than the Holy Spirit, who has influence over me and those who are actually called to defend Christianity. So Christianity is too important for our church, Landmark Missionary Baptist Church, to pick sides and abandon Christians over here or abandon Christians over there. When we stop turning inward and then go forward to the front line, I can see why young earthers, for example, might preoccupy with Christians who advocate an old earth, because it's safe. It's not like I'll come to Sunday school tomorrow and someone will have, you know, a stack of Bibles propped up above the door, and when I open it, it'll collapse on top of me. No, Christians aren't terrorists. Christians aren't members of ISIS. They aren't out to cause bloodshed. And I don't think I've ever discouraged anyone in our church. We had a young man teaching young earth in a class, had a brilliant scientist in our church teaching old earth in another class. It never occurred to me to destroy either one of these people. It occurred to me to resource this one as he defends the faith against atheism, which is not scientific, and evolution, which is not a field of science. And I encourage this one and resource him in this position as they refute atheism, which is not scientific, and evolution, which is not a field of science. So I don't know what it means to disagree with science. I've had surgeries. I retired an oncologist, had a surgeon who actually passed away, had multiple primary care physicians. I haven't really known more than 18 months at a time without illness. So all my life, through the 55 years to date, I've never even been allowed to disagree with science. When I was given my antibiotics, I took them. When I was given the medications for whatever else, and when the oncologist developed chemotherapies, I didn't stop and say I disagree with this. Although some things throughout the centuries we look back and we think we're barbaric, but at the time we didn't have knowledge to disagree. So no, I don't agree with science because I find billions of years in the Bible. I don't disagree with science when I can demonstrate thousands of years. I defend the faith and Christianity. So if you attack the Bible saying it doesn't teach billions, I can show that you've omitted something. If you attack the Bible and say it teaches billions, or attack people who say it does, I can show you that you just want to attack people. So, but that's probably why people don't have a lot of information. Low information people, it's probably more character. As I tell people, you don't have to be smart enough to do apologetics. You have to be hard enough. So with that in mind, I don't know what's going on here, except I know Calvinists have said terrible things about Arminians, vice versa. People have said horrible things about each other on pre or post trib something, and neither of them include the information in the text, and that's probably why their argumentative spirit wins out and prevails all the time, because they're so ready and energized to argue that they don't have the composure that is the fruit of the Spirit, temperance, and they don't have the dominant cognitive side, that is the mind that God has called us. And Paul said, I serve God with my mind. So I would rather explain to people, you need to just begin to serve God with your mind. And if you advocate old earth, then you talk to the atheists and the evolutionists and defend Christianity. If you're young earth, then you face the battle and you talk to the atheists and evolutionists. But we don't need to have friendly fire, which I've never known why they call it friendly fire. If it's fire, it's unfriendly. So you have a blessed day.